get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Vertigo Table. I am Ryan Doyle, and this is D20 Questions, where I am delighted to be joined by the illustrious GM Jim. What is up, Jim? How you doing today, man?
Hello, I'm GM Jim. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Yeah, happy to have you here, man. I discovered you through I think the Stephen King video was first. I was just like, ooh, this guy's interesting. And then the Hemingway inspired learn from these authors to apply to your D&D game. And then I did the deep dive on your channel, Wizards and Wordslingers, links all over the place. And I found all of your Steal These Rules videos and steal from the national parks. That's why I'm wearing my Bryce Canyon today. So first of all, I'm mad at you for stealing my video ideas. Second of all, yeah, a fellow criminal at heart. I think there's a lot of pressure, especially on newer dungeon masters, to essentially reinvent the wheel to come up with something like unique and totally their own. And that is one, probably impossible, but two, not the best idea. Learn and take inspiration from everything. So I am very glad to have you here so we can learn and be inspired by you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to get into it. Yeah, I do a lot of on my Wizards and Wordslingers YouTube channel. Did a lot of Steal These Rules videos because I thought I'm a big fan of home brewing stuff and going with what feels right in the moment. And I love 5e Dungeons and Dragons. That's primarily what I run, but I don't think there's anything wrong with taking a rule from this system or that system and tossing them into the soup and finding out what works well. I mean, as long as your group is cool with it. If you're playing with a group of purists, then you probably don't want to do that. But, as long as you get informed consent ahead of time to say,
Mm.
hey, I'm going to homebrew some rules and I might borrow rules from other systems. I think that there's a wealth of really cool stuff out there to steal from. And bottom line, playing tabletop role playing games is just about having fun. So I feel like whatever mountain you need to climb in order to do that, that's totally okay.
Yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. And this is the 50th year of Dungeons and Dragons, the godfather of TTRPGs, and that started as a homebrew set of rules stapled onto another game, and that's been the trajectory of the entire industry ever since. So, anybody who plays a purist card, it's like that's how the game that you are playing started off as somebody's homebrew rules. Um,
100%.
and yeah, I think the DIY culture in this space is one of the most special and resilient parts of the hobby. So yeah, hack and slash, make it your own. Love that. You don't need permission. All right. Speaking of hacking and slash, well, I just sat down with Jim to record some combat. We're a little bit nicer here on D20 questions, but links where the links go to that. We rolled some dice to see if I was getting a softball or a hard hitting question. Here at D20 questions, it's all hard hitting all the time. So,
Oh man.
oh no, no. Do. So I'm gonna ask you to roll a D20 and let's see what we get.
Here's my. We getting it? Got a big old.
Ooh, I like your die
That a
choice. That's a 6. I don't love where that dot is,
Yeah. I'm
actually.
I'm confused about the dot.
I'm gonna interpret it as a 6 because
Okay,
that's
fair
the way it
enough.
was facing. But what was that dot doing, guys? Come on. Um, dice manufacturers out there, make it readable. All right, that's a 6. 6. This is fate. This is going to be the rest of the video. What's something you have learned slash stolen from another dungeon master specifically? So maybe not necessarily a system, but another dungeon master.
Gotcha. I have an answer for this question. Ready to go. All right. So I've been playing in a Dungeon of the Mad Mage campaign
Mm.
every week for gosh, almost 2 years now, I think.
Mm,
We've gone from level 5 to currently level 15. Um, and the dungeon master, he's very skilled on the rules. He's very good at painting a picture. I mean, there's a reason why I come back every week and continue to play in this game. But he I've learned this one thing from I've learned several things from him, but one thing I've learned from him that I really enjoy is a way that he encourages role play is anytime we take a rest, anytime we have a short rest or a long rest, he will say, "Are there any scenes you would like to play?"
mm,
It's very simple, but he just encourages us instead of just opening up our character sheets and rolling hit dice, he encourages the PCs to talk to each other during these rests, to process things that have happened or talk about our future plans. And it's very simple. Are there any scenes you'd like to play? Just as a way to spur role playing. And I've sort of taken that in my home games. And I will say that, or I use rests as a chance to ask my players sort of philosophical questions about their characters, to say things like, "Valentine, how does your paladin feel about the fact that you all tortured that goblin?"
mm.
And then give that player a chance to answer the question in character, to say, what is Valentine concerned about before you go into the dungeon tomorrow? And I think it's just a great way to spur role play, to get the characters talking to each other and get them thinking about the game and get them thinking about being in that role.
I love that because it's such a one. It's smart to anchor it to something, and the rest mechanic is a perfect tee up for that. That's really smart because it's like, okay, what's happening for the next 8 to 10 hours, right? Oh, you feel better. Okay, cool. But
Yeah.
also, what is your character doing when they are not torturing goblins?
Can't all just be torturing goblins. There has to be
Exactly.
other elements.
I like that a lot. I do believe I'm going to steal that. It's funny. I used to do much more of that. I used to try to like you can't force people to role play more than they're comfortable with, but like setting the
Mhm.
table is important. And I was conscious of always taking the opportunity during long rests, especially. I've shortened short rests at my game, so people actually use them sometimes. Um, but yeah, yeah, stolen, duly stolen. All right, let's
How do you
go.
how do you do short rest? Do you do like a Baldur's Gate 3 thing?
I have just been doing short rest is taking 20 minutes. Because especially if you're not leaning into the role play aspect of things and like making camp and cozy cottage vibes or whatever, the mechanical difference, the feeling of taking a short rest versus taking a long rest at a lot of tables is the same. So like if I'm just pushing a button, why would I push the one that doesn't get me all of my stuff back, especially if I'm a caster
Mm,
or whatever. So there's time pressure elements, there's things you can do, remind the players that they can only get one long rest per 24 hours. There's things you can do to kind of like de-incentivize a long rest and incentivize short rests. But I've found, yeah, just catching your breath, I'm going to eat a granola bar and take a drink of water, and like 20 minutes versus 8 hours feels different mentally than the 1 hour 8 hour difference.
mm.
And I don't know, maybe that's me compensating for some shortcoming as a dungeon master. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I think um I think a lot of tables have that issue where like short rests are not a thing, and short rest classes, like your warlocks and your paladins out there, or monks especially, don't feel as good because they're built around a mechanic that's not necessarily happening as often as it was assumed to be happening.
Well
All
said.
right, let us roll more dice because that's what we came to do,
Nice.
ladies and gentlemen. We came to talk, but first we roll dice. Give me one more. Make it readable this time, please. Five.
I
So
think that is a
definitely a
5.
five. It might be a two, but I think it's a five. All right. Well, this is a great one. Favorite world building detail. I'm looking for specificity, but it could be yours. It could be somebody else's. We can zoom out too if you so choose. But yeah, just one. It doesn't have to be the all-time favorite. But what do you got?
Like my favorite thing I've created, or my favorite world building philosophy or style? What do you think?
I'm gonna go with both.
Hmm.
But give me, yeah, what's like something like even if maybe especially if your players haven't like unraveled the whole entirety of it, like just a little nugget of world building stuff that just brought a smile to your game master face.
So in my main home campaign right now, I created this world where for a long time I was running games in the Forgotten Realms because I had a long break from the hobby and I only really came back about 5 or so years ago.
Hmm.
When I first came back, I didn't feel really confident to run my own campaign world, but after a year or two, I was getting bored with Forgotten Realms. But so when I wanted to make my own homebrew world, I really wanted to insert the stuff that I love into it.
Mm.
I didn't want to make, anybody can make lakes and mountains and caves and dungeons. So what I really wanted to do is to take the stuff that I love, and one of the main things that I love in IRL is national parks. So what I did is I went into Incarnate and I made a landmass and I was like, all right, what are my 20 favorite national parks? Well, one of them is Bryce Canyon. And
Mm.
so I thought, well, I'm going to put Bryce Canyon right here on the map. And I'm going to put Rocky Mountain National Park right here on the map. And of course, I renamed them. Bryce Canyon, I think, is called Adana Bell's Spine in
Ooh.
my world, but I took all my national parks and just peppered them throughout the whole landmass. And so I thought, no matter where my players' PCs go, I'm gonna have a good time because I know that I know these national parks, I know these land masses. They're easy for me to describe. They're easy for me to put stuff there. So no matter where they go, I'm gonna be able to improv it or have stuff prepared that's easy for me to do and fun because I love national parks. And
Hmm.
so, when they go to Great Basin or they go to Bryce Canyon or they go to Rocky Mountain National Park or they go to Yosemite or Yellowstone. It doesn't matter which one it is. I've renamed all these things. Like Yosemite is Caldera Nor in my world, and it's all this giant thing inside the caldera of a massive supervolcano, and I have all
Mm.
kinds of
Mm.
ideas of what could happen there based on my own journeys to national parks. So yeah, I think the underlying lesson there is that, if you are building your own world, you should be filling it with crap that you love,
Yes.
and then you'll never be unhappy as a
Yes.
dungeon master. So
Yes.
I'm not sure which of the two questions I answered there. I kind of
I,
got lost and on track. Maybe both of them. I don't know.
I feel like you covered both of them in the best way possible. Yeah. One links where the links are going to that video because like woof, steal from national parks. I am on record several times saying I think a lot of people have issues when I hear people talk about how like overland travel is boring and wilderness encounters are boring. It's like you need to just go take a hike, go sleep in the forest by yourself for a night, and then come back and tell me that stuff's boring. Like that's the juice. Like
Yeah,
I think whatever. I think a lot of folks I mean everyone on the internet could benefit from going outside more.
100%.
Touch grass, right?
Touch grass on
Is what everyone's
100%.
yelling at each other right now as they type on the internet. But woof, man, inspiration is everywhere. You want to be good at describing adventures? Go have adventures.
Mm,
You know?
absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Is Big Bend one of your 20?
I've never been to Big Bend, and I have family in Texas.
Uh,
I've been in Texas. I've been to Guadalupe Mountains, which is sort of
mm-hmm,
right over the border from New Mexico.
mm-hmm,
Guadalupe
mm-hmm.
Mountains is really cool. I haven't made it out to Big Bend yet.
Well, Texas is a very big place. Guadalupe to Big
Indeed.
Bend is I don't even know. It's several European countries worth of travel.
Yeah.
Guadalupe, we had to like ran away from Guadalupe because we got blown off that mountain. Essentially, the tent collapsed on us from the wind. Um, but like, yeah, Guadalupe, that was a reef on this on the edge of a coastal shelf, and now it's a mountain range. And like, if that is not the premise for an awesome D&D dungeon, then like 30 miles from there is where Carlsbad Cavern is. You
Hmm.
know, you want
Guadalupe
to
is crazy. When I went there, I went to the park office, to ask them what should I do, and couple park rangers were talking and they were like, I think it's going to be 70 or 75 today. And I looked at my phone. I was like, the weather says it's going to be 55. They were talking about the wind speed. They don't talk about temperature there. They talk about wind speed.
Yes. Yes. It's nuts. It's nuts. And that's, the weather should be an important part of your game. You're traveling for 3 days, like wind can screw you up, right? It's not just like, oh,
Mm,
you're traveling at half speed. It's like you just got hit with a tree branch. You
absolutely.
take one D12 bludgeoning damage. Awesome. I love that. I love that. The real world is a great inspiration for your game world. All right. What is this? This is number 3. Give me another D20, please, and thank you.
Come on. There's a 7.
7.
A lot of middling
Did you go? You
rolls.
went 5, 6, 7. I'm gonna get 8 lined up now.
I have.
Um, do 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 do. Um, this is essentially what we were just talking about. So yet another source of inspiration for TTRPGs. That's not necessarily another TTRPG. So the natural worlds and America's wonderful national park system aside, we can skip this one if you feel like asked and answered, but you have another good source of inspiration for be it your world guild building or your character building.
Sure, I can still answer this. Another unlikely source I find for TTRPG inspiration is in fiction.
Mm,
I suppose it's not that the answer doesn't sound unlikely, but I'm a writer and I study writing advice quite a bit. And on my channel, I have videos with writing. I take authors' writing advice and then I sort of clickbaity change it into this author's hacks for running D&D.
mhm,
So I take like so far I've done Vonnegut, I've done Hemingway, I've done Elmore Leonard, who's one of my favorites.
mm,
That video didn't get as much traction because I don't think he's as popular in the fantasy nerd community. But Elmore Leonard, I love you, rest in peace. And I've got one on George R. R. Martin coming out.
mm,
I like to take these authors' writing advice and say, how can that apply to running tabletop games? Because creating a fictional world in a novel and creating a fictional world in a tabletop campaign have a lot of similarities, especially when it comes to things like how to create your big bad evil guy.
mm,
Your BBEG is one of the most important things. Nailing that is one of the most important things you can do in a tabletop game. And as an author of thrillers, in thrillers, the villain drives the action. It's not so much like the hero is creating the plot. The villain creates the plot and the hero reacts to the plot in thriller
mhm,
novels. It's all about the villain has a plan to blow up a building, to take over a thing, to ruin or steal a resource. And the hero reacts to stopping the villain from doing that. And I think that translates perfectly well to tabletop games. It's all about your hero needs to have a plan. Your hero needs to have a multi-step plan. Your hero needs, I mean, I'm saying here, I mean villain. Your villain needs to have a multi-step plan. Your villain needs to have a reason for why they're doing it. Uh,
mm,
you know, your villain needs to be more than just, I'm doing it because I'm evil and kidnapping all these orphans is an evil thing to do. Your villain needs a reason why they're kidnapping all these orphans. They need to have a plan. And I think that is why you can draw great inspiration from fiction, from authors writing advice to building a perfect tabletop campaign.
absolutely. I give away most of my favorite books, but most of those authors are behind me somewhere. Um, I yeah, I really like that answer. I think if you want to really prep your campaign well, so you can think on your feet, not just so you can have the answer ready, but so that you can um, react to what your players are doing as the game master. Like, what happens if your player characters turn around and walk the other way? What does your villain do? And if the answer is nothing, okay, maybe come up with a more interesting answer because that's boring, and
Mm-hmm.
your villain is not as fleshed out. What happens if the bad guy wins? What is their objective? What is their goal? And then that's going to tell you what their next move is when the players throw a monkey wrench in that villain's plan, and now it's on, and now the thing's writing itself, and that's like that's the good stuff for me. Um, Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
the
good.
Dungeon World has this really awesome rule or mechanic that is very awesomely named Grim Portents.
Mm,
And it's where you ask yourself, what would happen if the heroes don't intervene? If there is no intervention, what would the villain do? The villain would do A, which leads to B, which leads to C, which leads to D, which leads to the ultimate goal of E. And that is how you plan out your villain's arc. Now, obviously, the heroes are going to intervene and do stuff, and then the villain has to pivot. But that grim portent is, what would the villain do if they had free reign? They could just
mhm.
do whatever they wanted, and how would it end up? As if you were writing a novel, because that's how the villain doesn't think they're going to get foiled, right? The villain
Exactly.
thinks they're going to win. The villain thinks that their plan is ultimately going to succeed. And so you have to have that idea in your head. And then, of course, let the PCs mess it up.
And your villain thinks it's the right thing to do, or is
Mhm.
justified, let's say. It's a rational course of, I mean, maybe you're dealing with the crazy character, mad aberration from a different plane of existence who doesn't comport to our ideas of morality or whatever, but like, most of the time you're talking about someone who is like feels justified in their actions and is working towards a specific goal. And like the most the most like freeing advanced game master tip is be willing to just burn it to the ground. Like the second
Mhm.
you're willing to let, because the player characters are going to try and they're going to have fun if you let them. But two, the bad guy could win. And then what happens? Like just about every game setting in a sense, is some post-apocalyptic world. That's why there's all this
Mhm.
treasure buried somewhere. There were these cool guys making all this gold and magic stuff, and they're not here anymore because something terrible happened. And then if something terrible happens, then that's the premise of your next campaign. And just advance the clock a generation, and that's the next batch of heroes. Because the last batch of heroes went to the tavern instead of ending the big bad's evil scheme here. So I was gonna
Yeah,
say I'm holding back so hard from making this like a literary conversation instead of a game master conversation, but off script here, off the cards. Um, I really want to ask you, as someone who has one spent a lot of time writing, obviously you have a career as an
Mhm.
author, and two, you're giving game master advice and drawing from the one to talk about the other. I think some game masters out there get into trouble by confusing novel writing or story writing and running a game. So I am curious where you feel like you've either personally had to draw the line or like automatically figured out for yourself and like would tell other, especially like newer people to the hobby, what is the difference between writing a novel and running a game?
that's a big question.
Mm.
I think what the difference, I mean, the simplest answer to that question is I don't know how the game's going to end. With
Mm.
the novel I know how it's going to end from the beginning. There's two types of novelists. There's the plotters and the pantsers.
Hmm.
I'm a plotter. I sit down and I have an outline. I know how it's going to end before I even begin, and I that's how I feel comfortable enough to write the whole book. There are pantser writers who they don't know how it's going to end. They know how it's going to start and maybe a couple ideas along the way, and then they just go where the story takes them. That terrifies me, um, because Stephen King is famous for having bad endings to his books, and he is famously a pantser. I'm not saying that all pantsers are bad writers. No, no, no. Please don't think that I'm saying that. I'm just saying for me, it's terrifying. But that's what makes it so freeing in a tabletop game. And I have to tell myself it's a completely. Here's the thing: when I started running Dungeons and Dragons, I thought the fact that I was an author would make me an amazing game master. And that's not actually true because they're two completely different creative muscles.
Mm. Mm.
Knowing how to arc a story is an author's game. Knowing how to let a story go where it wants to go is the game master's game. And so I have to tell myself, I don't prep plots.
Mm.
I don't prep arcs. I prep characters. I prep locations. I prep events. And then I throw those at my players. And then whatever they do, that's the story.
Hmm.
I have to tell myself as the game master, I'm not making the story. What I'm doing is I'm throwing the toys on the floor, and then they decide which ones they're going to want to pick up and play with. And then the story is the choices they make. The story is what happens after the session. I look back and I say, they made those choices. That was the story for that session. And then at the end of a campaign, that's the story is everything they've done based on the toys that I gave them.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well said. Very well said.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like that a lot. All right, I'm gonna count that as one. So we're gonna roll one more d20. Let's
Okay.
get that. What are we on? 8, I think.
Yeah, here comes an 8. Here it comes. Get ready. Here comes that 8. Nope.
Oh, 17. 17. Do. Um, yeah, this is a good one, but a tough one. What is your favorite thing that happens at the table? Like what is your favorite part of playing these games? What's the good stuff, the juice, the energy for you?
Well, this is an easy answer. My favorite thing that happens at the table is when my players do something I don't expect.
Mm,
When they come up with a creative solution to a problem, because I don't get to have that experience when I'm writing a book. I know some authors, the pantser authors, who say my character just did this. I know authors who say, they're writing a scene and the characters took on their own life. I've never had that experience. And when I'm writing fiction, I'm God and the characters do what I tell them to do.
hmm
But in games, I'm not God, and my players do stuff that I don't expect them to do, and that's wild. I love that. It was in a recent session. The characters were in deep down dungeon, and there was lava flow, and there was this room where in the dungeon, basically these creatures were using lava flow to smelt and make weapons. And so they went through this weapon making room, and then after that, they went to a room that had a brazier that was spitting fire, and they had to get past it. And there was a very slim passage on either side of the brazier, and they were going to have to make dexterity saving throws to get past it. Well, one of my characters said, "Hey, in that smelting room, are there outfits they wear to protect them from the fire?" And I said, "Sure." I didn't even really know where he was going at that point. I was just like, "Yeah,
hmm
that makes sense."
hmm
And he went back and got one of those outfits, tossed it over the brazier, and I was
mm,
like, "That's so simple and so brilliant." Sure, yeah, no dex
yes.
check needed. You could walk right past it. As I described the brazier trying to spit fire and the hazmat suit bouncing on top of it as the fire was trying to get out. But I didn't see that coming, and I loved it. And that's why I play the game. It's not to enact a series of events as I have foreseen them, like Emperor Palpatine. It's to have the story go in unexpected directions, and then in between the sessions for me to go, okay, now what can I throw at them, now that it's turned left 60 degrees, what can I throw at them that will be interesting now? That's my jam. That's where I really get off.
Yeah, because that whatever Dragonhide hazmat suit that they found, it's only gonna last for so long, so now they have to solve that trap a different way on the way back.
Sure.
That's right. That's where my mind goes. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of people get caught up in traps or like hazards, challenges, however you want to like quantify that or qualify that. It's not just like, oh, this is hit point attrition if they don't roll good. It's like, here's a puzzle. I don't know. There's 100 ways to solve. Like, I'm not going to come up with a way to solve it because that might limit my accepting of their clever solutions to it. Um, yeah, great, good stuff.
Mm.
All right, we're gonna roll more dice, but this time, we're gonna use a little tool I've been cooking up for a while now. It's almost complete, but you have chosen criminal, which is one of the ones that have been complete for quite some time here. Um, oops, I am excited, especially to run this with you. So it's a two-page spread. On the one side, we're building a character. Now, I've used this with players for session zero. I've used this when I'm bored by myself to flesh out NPCs. Um, so out of the gate, you have a criminal. Do you have any more than that? Do you have more of a character concept? Is this like a character you're currently running? What are we working with today?
Well, I don't know, for our purposes here, I didn't prepare anything.
We can start
But
from zero. That's also fine.
yeah, I always I'm kind of predictable as a player in D&D. I really like the criminal background because IRL, I wasn't always the paragon of virtue that you see sitting before you. And I really like the idea of the former criminal trying to turn over a new leaf.
Mm,
I'll give you a couple quick examples in my Dungeon of the Mad Mage campaign I'm playing, and my character is a former street thug who made a deal with a patron, and now he's trying to. His patron is essentially his probation officer, and
ooh,
so whenever he wants to do bad, his patron is like, don't do that, Pinch. You gotta fly the straight and narrow. Or in another campaign, I'm playing a paladin who is a former pirate, a very mean, nasty guy. But then he had a dream where an elvish god came to him and said, "You need to stop doing all this stuff." Then everybody on the boat was going to mutiny. He stood up for the captain, and they threw him overboard. So his thing is, everywhere that paladin goes, people know him as this ruthless pirate, and he's trying to say, "No, I'm good now. I'm holy now. I'm trying to do the right thing." But I like characters where their reputation precedes them, but they're trying to fight against that.
mm, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. That is a great jumping off point. Let's see. This might conflict with all of that, or it might be brilliant. Why are you fighting me, jerk? Oh, because I made you full screen. You don't like it? So we're gonna roll these one at a time. In person, this first page, the character development side, is a fistful of dice. Is one of each die size, not a D100. I find virtually that's a mess. So please roll a D20 to start here.
So wait, I'm not rolling online. I'm just rolling at my desk.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to roll in person, it is more satisfying. Roll 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 20.
Oh my
Because
goodness.
it is very tactilely satisfying. And I
Four,
trust you not to cheat.
6. I don't even know what I'm cheating for. 4, 6, 8, a 12 and a 20. No D10.
D10, yeah, everything but a D100.
Gotcha. All right. So here we go. That's the
Yes.
juice right there, right? That's the fun part.
Clickety clackety
Oh,
math rocks go.
okay. What am I telling you first?
D20, please and thank you. And this is going to be the drive, dream, or aspiration. This is our character's motivation. And the
My
other rule here is that you can kind of pick whatever you want, especially on this is your character. So for you or anyone using any of my tables, yeah, if something jumps off, or you see something and you're like, that's dumb, it would be better if, then it's doing its job. Do that.
Gotcha.
So what you get on the 20?
My D20 was a 2.
2, free a loved one held by a rival gang. That's juicy right there.
Okay. So this is interesting. This just made me think of I wrote a thriller series called the Micah Reed series, which was about a guy who was in keeping with my favorite type of characters to play and write. He was a former thug who turned state's witness and went into witness protection.
Mm,
And then he eventually couldn't handle being in witness protection. He couldn't handle the rigors of the program, and so he left voluntarily. That's all backstory. But then in the first book, he finds out that his sister has joined what is essentially a fledgling religious cult.
mm,
And so he goes to up in the mountains in Colorado, where I live. He goes up into the mountains to try to essentially join this cult to get her to leave. So maybe we could do something like that. Maybe not necessarily a rival gang, but our hero in this story is seeing his sister joining the dark side, getting brainwashed by a some kind of cult to some titan or god or something. and so he wants to infiltrate to try to get her out.
And I like how that ties in with this idea of like he did get out, right? He got out of this world, and now he has to like essentially voluntarily go back in and confront it, and maybe meet some people he has to talk to for a while, maybe some people he sold out even.
Yeah,
Um, that is juicy. And anytime a player character's backstory has a built-in NPC, in danger or otherwise, is a great thing to hand to your dungeon master, to stitch them into the game that they're running. All right, we're off to a strong start here. Give me the D12,
a
please and thank
D12
you.
is a 5.
Five. So this is the call to adventure. Essentially, like why are they going to go risk their lives? This is also a little bit of a multi-tool. There's different ways to use this one, but stumbled into the aftermath of a heist gone wrong.
Hmm. Okay, so what if we wanted to tie this to the sister?
Hmm.
We could say that this is how he knows the sister was in the cult,
Mm,
in that he was trying to do something and discovered that this cult was trying to heist a magical object or something. And for whatever reason, he was there. And that's how he learned his sister was involved with these people.
yeah, because depending on certain like world building elements, the line between a cult and a criminal organization is pretty permeable, right? If this is
Right.
if we're worshiping a forgotten god, maybe we're criminals by default right out of the gate, because of the powers that be don't sanction our this religion. But also, yeah, a heist implies a MacGuffin, and that's campaign fuel.
So they were trying to, whatever they were trying to heist, the hidden, the forbidden texts that they
Mm,
believe prove their god is the rightful one. And
mm.
so they had broken into some sacred temple or something. And our hero could, maybe he was at the temple to try to atone for something. Maybe he's working with people as some sort of self-imposed community service to try to do good. And he was there when they broke into this temple to heist the what they believe is the sacred text. Whether or not that's actually the sacred text that proves anything, we don't know.
Yeah, there's this like dichotomy between warlocks and clerics, but I
Mm,
feel like a warlock whose patron is essentially their parole officer, right? In function, if not form, then like, yeah, this could be, it doesn't necessarily even have to be a celestial warlock, but like your patron may have a temple, even if you're not a cleric. You might have a different relationship with this magical power source, this deity, who would be quite interested in what your sister's up to if, perhaps this forbidden cult is worshiping an antagonistic god to your patron.
mm, mm-hmm.
Next on deck is a D8. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say a guy like you probably isn't going to benefit from this side as much as some other folks, but I think a lot of players come in with a character without any sort of sense of how they're going to like transform and grow. And I don't want that to be like super specific because that's going to happen over time as the game progresses, right? You don't know the end of your character's story the way that Game Master doesn't know the end of the story.
Yeah,
But coming in with an idea of like a trajectory can help you once start somewhere that gives you room, opposed to like my guy is 1,000% awesome and perfect at level one, and
yeah.
has nowhere to go. So what do we get on the D8?
We got a 5.
Five, save yourself mentality to save the world mentality. Yeah, this is
Mm,
constrained. I'm sorry if I'm tweaking your writerly muscles here by only speaking in sentence fragments. But save
no,
yourself to save the world mentality.
no, this is good. This tells me this I feel like is really useful if in building the character, not necessarily the backstory, but let's say that if we're playing 5e Dungeons and Dragons, this tells me that I am a wild magic sorcerer.
Oh, Go on.
And maybe one of the reasons that I had to go straight or left is that because my magical outbursts put other people in danger.
Mm,
Maybe wild magic or maybe aberrant mind, but there's something in this character who's volatile and dangerous. And so one reason they have to walk the straight and narrow path is because their magic is unpredictable, and so they need to this character needs to get control of his mind in order to avoid hurting other people.
and that feels like it could really touch on the relationship with the sister who's in the cult, right? Like if you are volatile, right, then the people you spend the most time with are the ones who are likely to get hurt.
Yeah,
Um,
it feels it's kind of I'm getting vibes of sort of like I don't know, did you see the TV show Legion?
no, you know what? It's funny. It's always been on the list, but I never did it. Never pulled the trigger.
Yeah, wild show, but that's basically what his character he was essentially a wild magic sorcerer,
Mm,
and that he was incredibly powerful, mentally unstable, and his actions had sometimes severe consequences for other people. And it was all the show was about him trying to get control of his abilities and control of his mind.
mm, mm.
Hmm.
And yeah, you can still have that sort of, even if you're not a warlock, right? Maybe it's not your patron, but there's like there's many paths to like interacting with some sort of divine, be it a celestial being or like an organization, right? Like someone who's trying to get a handle on themselves, could very well be at the temple trying to, I don't know, learn how to quiet their mind if it's aberrant and filled with strangers' whispers, or they had a weird day and accidentally cast fireball.
Oops.
All right, D4, friendly faction. And now this is not
That
necessarily an organization you belong to, but someone you have some sort of relationship with.
that is a 2.
Two, the Crickets, street kid beggars and pickpockets with eyes and ears all over the city. I feel like every campaign I have run, given the opportunity, my players will make this faction happen if it
Mm,
doesn't exist in the world already. uh,
sure. Well, it's always helpful to be friends with the Thieves Guild
mm,
because they, the people with their ear to the ground, right?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
It's great way to get information. I think this fits in perfectly well with our character. Because maybe he and his sister grew up as part of this organization. They
yes.
they grew up as street urchins, and so when they went their separate ways and he got into more serious crimes, he's maintained these contacts with these street kids, and he does a lot of couch surfing with these people.
Mm.
I think this works. Yeah, this works perfectly.
Do you know the Lies of Locke Lamora? I forget the series name. It's like it's not Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. It's like Glorious Bastards or something. But do you know that work?
I
The Lies of Locke
don't.
Lamora. It's good. It's that like towing the line of like fantasy and sci-fi and just like heisty crime drama.
Uh,
Yeah, you might enjoy it.
okay.
All right, D6. So this is like a friendly, or let's say better than neutral. NPC.
That is a 3.
3. Elena Ryder sells flowers and has an exquisite hand for forgeries. Ooh.
Okay. So if she has an exquisite hand for forgeries, she's probably a former member of the Crickets.
Mm.
And she sells flowers now. So maybe she's gone straight, but she's still, it's a life in the city is expensive. So she still has to do a little criminal work on the side to make ends meet. And maybe this is our character's sister's best friend. And so
Mm.
this is sort of the person who has kept us in touch with her as maybe the sisters, she's been gone for a while, and we don't know where she is or what she's doing, and that's obviously why meeting her again at the heist was so surprising and like an inciting incident for the character. But maybe Elena is the one who is the sort of go between and was giving our hero updates on the sister from time to time, but even she hasn't heard from the sister in a couple years.
Good stuff. Yeah, for a second I was like, maybe that is the sister, but I like
Mm.
the web, the interconnected aspect of like, yeah, there's someone in the middle. All right, now this is the only one I would say where you might want to fudge. But what you get on the D10?
I got a 9.
Oh, very good. Okay, so this potentially. So I used this to hand out magic items for a bunch of first level characters, and I had some regrets. And another campaign we started at level 5, and it slotted right in. But as a caveat, sometimes you might not want to hand, especially the higher numbers, to a level 1 character, but it can be a thing that they're striving for. They know that it exists. Could be the thing that's heisted, housed. Um, Cloak of the Chameleon can shift tone and texture to match surroundings and aid in hiding. Okay, I would hand that out at level 1. That's a Cloak of Elven Kinds essentially. You're getting. Um, Also, I should say this is all system neutral, because I don't know if you're using this with 5e or Pathfinder or some OSR BX clone. But I've tried very hard to make it obvious what the what the thing would do, whatever rule set you're using.
Yeah, this is absolutely perfect for a former member of the Crickets, for a street thug, and maybe this is something that he associates with his criminal past, and so he keeps it in a chest in his place, and then takes it out and looks at it from time to time in a very somber scene
mm, mm,
where he considers, am I going to have to use, he only takes out the cloak when he's doing something bad, and so he has great regret whenever he puts it on, but sometimes you have to go skulk around the city to learn things.
yeah, it just had like
You know,
that.
in, in those superhero shows where there's the point where they're like, I'm done my superheroing, and they take off the costume and they put it in a footlocker. And then there's that scene where they open up the footlocker and look at the uniform all folded up in there and think, I'm gonna have to put that on again.
Mhm.
That's what I'm picturing.
Yeah, that was a very evocative, like that was a montage in my head, 100% of like, yeah, cutscene. See like John Constantine like unearthing his buried whatever, the guns and the coins and all that in his basement.
Mhm.
Um okay, so that is rich and powerful. I am pumped about this. I think that's a very good character. We're gonna switch hats now, and we're
Okay.
gonna go over. Oh no, I'm sorry. You're using real dice. Even better. We're gonna go over to the dungeon master side of the equation here.
Okay.
So depending on your table, maybe you are at the point like where you're collaborating to this extent with your players, especially depending on what kind of game you're running. But I see this as the game master side. We are building an adventure around this character, or um, sometimes we're just taking little nuggets to spice up an adventure that we were planning on running in the first place. So that, because in theory, as a dungeon master, you're going to have 5 characters with all of these rolled out. So it might be the setting from the paladin and the wild sorcerer's like thematic monster, and you were sent there by to like unearth the antagonistic organization of the rogue, whatever it may be. So give me 4d6, as is tradition. We're not dropping a
All right.
lowest here.
All at once or one at a time?
You can do either way, all at once, but decide on an order.
All right, I'll just do them one at a time. That
Okay.
seems easier. All right, that is a 4.
So this is a faction that is not so friendly to our hero here. So what you get on that for?
Steel shepherds, caravan guards who wear thieves' hands they've cut off as trophies.
Ooh, so maybe he recognizes the hands along the way. That's
Uh,
interesting.
okay, this is our antagonistic organization. So this would be maybe caravan guards who wear thieves' hands they've cut off as trophies. Okay, what about this? This is interesting. So they're caravan guards, so they're presumably some kind of offshoot of the City Watch. So what if this is the religious cult and they have infiltrated the City Watch, and
Mm,
they call themselves the Steel Shepherd. They're sort of like a secret sect among the actual government police force.
I like that a lot. That has a ton of potential because it could be, I love the opportunity of like you cross paths with whatever this NPC level one, level two, and it's the old Scooby Doo. He was the bad guy the whole time or whatever. But like you
Right.
don't quite see how deeply embedded into society this organization is until you've leveled up in there, or it's an appropriate threat level for you.
Yeah. 100%.
um, Oof, yeah, that's good. That's good. Give me another d6, please.
All right. That is a 6.
Six. Whisper, Victi, changes identity each time they deceive and double cross their compatriots. All right, forget everything. I just want to run this character now. Uh,
Okay, so this is essentially our BBEG.
but not necessarily. Some of these are conceived as like you actually this is like a social challenge. I mean, this guy feels like potentially a very good BBEG, but some of these are like this guy made fun of you in high school, but like if you kill him today, it wouldn't be good for you. Right? So like
Right.
different kinds of challenge levels. But yeah, some of them are clearly suited for more high stakes. And I think Whisper might rise to that level.
So what if Whisper is obviously also a former member of the Crickets
Mm.
who was maybe badly scarred in an accident?
Mm.
So he's unrecognizable to our hero. Our hero would not recognize him. Um, and he is joined, he's maybe part of the Steel Shepherds. I'm trying to tie everything together. He's he's shepherding the Steel Shepherds into maybe up through the ranks of the City Watch. Huh. And but he has a vendetta out against our hero because of reasons when they were in the Crickets. They didn't like each other as kids or whatever. And so he is planning to he and so Whisper was excited beyond belief when our hero's sister came to join the cult because he could use her as a tool against our hero.
I had this spark of like the reason he's scarred to the point of being unrecognizable is a result of some wild magic surge that
Oh, great.
chased our
Yes.
boy out of perhaps the crickets or perhaps the more grown up criminal organization that maybe the sister was also a part of or not. But this idea of like I mean that's just interesting storytelling where like you guys were best friends, went crazy or lost control of you didn't even realize it was you doing it at the time, and like well, you rolled whatever it is, you rolled 67 fireball happened, and um now this person who you were you know came up with together is now plotting your demise because yeah you burnt them and disfigured them and changed the trajectory of their life.
I love that.
That's juicy.
Love it.
uh,
And he could be the BBEG, or, if he dies in a battle when the characters are fifth level, then Whisper has a boss.
ex-
That's how we handle that.
exactly. So I really appreciate your impulse to like I need all these to connect because that's how my brain works too. But this is just a bucket of ideas as well because like somewhere in prep, you're gonna have to again, we don't know the ending, right? We have an
Right.
idea of where the campaign is going, and sometimes that idea is going to get short circuited or dropped in the first round of combat when we didn't even think we were going to roll initiative, whatever the case may be. And
Yeah.
we need to go back to the well to get more ideas. Um, all right, so evocative location. And in my mind, this is the one that's the most easy to like move around and set somebody else's interesting moment inside this setting. Um, but it can absolutely connect to everything that we've already talked about. D6. What you
Let's
got?
see. That is a 4.
4. Why don't you read this one if you can?
The Rock Dove Gantries, a secret network of rooftop paths, planks, and hideouts above the city.
I mean, that's those are the children running around in my mind. That's where the crickets are.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
100%.
okay? That was an easy one.
100%. This is how our hero avoids detection as he's investigating the cult and learning about their connection to the City Watch. Because we'd have to assume that probably very early on in the campaign, the larger City Watch is going to be out for our hero, and so he has to have a network, a way to get around town
Hmm.
without being detected, because he can't use that.
The
What
cloak,
was
the
it? The cloak
chameleon
call? Yeah, the
cloak,
chameleon cloak. Yeah,
chameleon cloak. Yeah.
that's only effective to a certain amount, and so he can't just walk through regular society at all times. That's generally reserved for at night
Hmm.
and less populated areas. But he's got to be able to get around to investigate what's going on with the Steel Shepherds.
Man, and I just had this vision. It would take a little bit of doing, but with the right software, actually, it wouldn't be too hard. But like here's the town map that you're navigating. It's like, okay, which one's the blacksmith? And then I'm gonna go to the tavern or whatever, and then just like overlay that with the rooftops connected with these like clotheslines and like rickety boards. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
that would be a fun whether we're fighting or spying or whatever we're doing, heisting. Um, and second to last stop on our tour here is going to be a thematic monster. Give me a d6, and this admittedly is going to be the most work for the dungeon master, game master, not knowing what system you're running. It might not perfectly slot into whatever bestiary you are pulling from. But what you get?
that is a 6.
Ooh, so this is also graded to a degree that most of them are not. Vengeful Angel, Radiant, has unnuanced views of morality and a big flaming sword.
And a
Um,
big flaming sword.
yes,
So the easy answer would probably be that this is the god that the cult worships, right?
that's funny. This was the parole officer for me, but like, ooh, 100%. Yeah, some angel who's like, the gods have gone soft, and like it's time for me to write stuff. Like that's we were talking about like the moral ambiguity earlier today. That's a fucking great way to set that up.
So this is the creature who has directed Whisper and the Steel Shepherds to heist the ancient tomes, because maybe this vengeful angel believes that they will be vindicated in these texts, and so is
Mm,
pulling all these strings and saying you need to infiltrate the City Watch, then heist these texts and bring them to me, because I believe it will prove that I should be emperor, or whatever. This angel needs to have a reason for doing what they're doing, and it has to be something to do with they've been demoted, maybe spiritually. People don't believe in this vengeful angel anymore,
mm.
and so they think they will be vindicated by the content of these texts, but the powers that be are keeping them secret in the catacombs below the capital for whatever reason.
Yeah, this idea of like incredibly lawful and like let me show you what the law says. It's like, well, that's what it
Mm,
said. The last civilization. No. You cannot change the law. I am coming for
right.
you. Oof, okay. This is yeah, I want to run this campaign now. Um, and there comes a point with this where like if you're done, you can be done. But let's roll a d20, the swingiest of dice. And this might wrap it all up in a nice little bow, or this might be just like a little level one side quest, depending on how much sense this makes.
That is a 10.
That is a 10. The old gang's under new leadership, and things have taken a much darker turn. I mean, that's a gimme. Yeah, that's what we've been talking about this whole time. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
That could be Whisper, or that could be the vengeful angel.
mhm.
But yeah, maybe the Steel Shepherds, were obviously just a part of the City Watch before, but the Whisper. I guess you probably see it might make more sense if this is the Vengeful Angel, that the Whisper is the leader of the Steel Shepherds, but the Vengeful Angel found the most corruptible City Watch people and said,
Mm.
I can't act in your world for whatever reason until I've been manifested, that kind of Sauron thing of like, I'm just a spirit now. I need you to be my agents. Found the most corruptible City Watch people and said, get me those texts. And then that's when the Steel Shepherds started doing the messed up stuff like collecting hands
Hmm.
and assassinating people inside the City Watch who were maybe about to find them out or were contrary to their plans.
I forgot about the hands because that's perfect. That's just like brutal, like law, what was it, unnuanced idea of justice and morality.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's dark. I for a second was also toying with the idea of like, I mean, one, just applying this blanket to all the organizations we talked about, but like the crickets, like some, I mean, maybe it's a Dickensian character, or maybe it goes in a different direction, or it's Liza Locklemore, but like who's in charge? Who's sending all these little tramps around to like pickpockets before we get here, right? There's also like um a little kid steals from you, moral ambiguity. Okay, what do you do now? And you find out that like they were sent here by someone who you can maybe roll initiative against and have a combat with without feeling like a total degenerate.
Yeah, totally. I've seen the crickets as Dickensian or like 1920s newsies
I'm wearing the wrong hat. I got a newsy
with their little
stepson.
hats. Yeah. And their suspenders. Newspaper, sir. Newspaper is only a nickel.
Uh,
That's a fun
awesome.
campaign.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was great. That was great. It's deeply. I love having other people's minds and inspirations and influences like interacting and making sparks with this stuff.
And
Awesome.
I'm glad I didn't prep for that. I'm glad I didn't
Mm,
look through it because the dice some of those dice rolls were absolutely perfect for what I had in my head, and some of them were counter and forced me to think in a new direction, which was a very interesting way to do it. It was very thought provoking. It helps me spur my creativity. That's an awesome little tool you've made.
yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm still working on it. Should be done in April. Um, but yeah, it's dope. There's some other stuff in there, but that is the heart of it. And I do personally like when it doesn't quite fit right away and I have to actually think about it, right? Like that last one is like, okay, yes, that is exactly what what it was. But the times when you actually have to like sit back and think and like, okay, where can I tie this string to connect
Yeah,
these dots? Um, Cool. Love that stuff. All right, cool. Yeah, man. Thank you for joining me here today and rolling some dice with us and jumping through all my hoops and answering questions.
absolutely.
I deeply appreciate it. I highly encourage everybody watching to go watch GM Jim talk about one, stealing rules. I think there's a lot of people in a 5e silo who are afraid to venture into other things because 5e took a lot to learn. Other systems are easier. But even if you're happy in 5e, go steal from all these other systems out there because there's some brilliant ideas, and Jim here is very good at extracting them and sharing them with
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank
Jim,
you.
what's on deck? What's next for Wizards and Wordslingers over there?
Well,
What are we working on?
I don't know exactly when this is coming out, but a couple of things I have upcoming are a look at George R. R. Martin's writing advice and how you can use that to help run your D&D games. I'm doing a sort of the most journalistic piece I've done to date is in about a month or so. I think I'm coming out with a video that talks about the controversy between Gary Gygax and J.R.R. Tolkien.
Mm,
Because a lot of people accused Gygax of stealing stuff from Tolkien, and there was a lawsuit. and I uncovered an old Dragon magazine article where Gary said some things about Tolkien, and so I do kind of a like reading between the lines analysis of what I think Gary's actual thoughts were on the issue, and
Mm.
I think that one's going to be pretty big. But then again, I can never tell which of my videos are going to do well. Ones I think that are going to blow up, get no views. Who knows? I don't know what the peoples want.
A question that's going to be on the next batch of cards. I wrote it and then like didn't put it on here, but like the video. What's your favorite video that did terribly? Because anyone who's making YouTube content for any amount of time has one where they were like, "This is so good," and then nobody cares.
Oh, um, I don't know. I haven't looked at my old view numbers in a while.
Mm.
But I will say this, here's an exclusive for your video for
Ooh,
your channel.
ooh.
Of all the Steal the Rules videos that I've done, I will tell you my favorite.
Okay. Yes, please.
What I think is the most ingenious system out there,
Yes.
and that is Index Card RPG.
Mm,
Index Card
mm.
RPG is freaking brilliant. It has so many cool little rules in it. I mean, not all of them are 100% original to Index Card RPG, but it has so many cool little rules. That is one I would absolutely recommend anyone go out and buy and just read the book because it's chock full of cool stuff. Great stuff to steal, great inspiration, a great way of looking at role playing games that's maybe a little bit different than what you're used to. So, yeah, Index Card RPG is awesome.
Great approach and a great dude. I mean, I don't know him personally, but I've enjoyed his channel. He's actually opening up a brick and mortar store in Philadelphia,
Mm.
which makes me very happy. Go support your friendly local game shop if it's owned by
Yes.
Hank. I'm not gonna butcher his last name out loud. But Runehammer. But yeah, he did an excellent job of just like boiling down to like the fundamental components so that he could think about them. I think a lot of people bounce off of it because it is very simple, but I think that's the brilliance of it, and that makes it highly moddable, harvestable.
Mm.
Yeah, so seconded. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite thing to steal from, but like great system. Check out Runehammer if you have not in the past. Index Card RPG is great and is like easy to lift. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
100%.
awesome. All right, again, thank you so much. I look forward to that. George R.R. Martin one seems sentient because most D&D campaigns don't end.
Yeah, fair enough.
um, but yeah, I look forward to that video and the comments on that video. And yeah, we'll talk again soon, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.